There are a lot of questions modern Sikhs are tired of hearing. Why are Sikhs always angry? Why do we all act like victims? Why are we so divided? Why don't we feel powerful anymore? Why do we cling to the past? And sometimes these questions don't come from outsiders. They come from within the community. You look around and you feel it. There's tension, there's confusions, and there are contradictions. And if you're not a Sikh, you will still be able to recognize this pattern because every community with some kind of warrior past goes through something similar, just like this. And in my mind, the real question isn't who are Sikhs today, it's something deeper and something harder. And I'd like to explore all of that in this video. I think the real question is, what did power do to us? And what did losing power do to us? Because Sikh identity today, it isn't random. It's the outcome of a community that lived through a lot of power, a lot of loss, too much trauma, and a whole lot of migration in very less of a time. And if you've ever wondered why modern Sikhs feel proud and hurt and confused and almost unshakable all at the same time, this is where the answer begins. So let's zoom out for a bit. Sikh history doesn't start with war. It starts with questioning power, rejecting caste, rejecting empty rituals, rejecting hierarchy. But then things change. After Guru Arjan Dev Ji's martyrdom, Guru Hargobind steps out wearing two swords, one for Miri, one for Piri. There's two swords for temporal responsibility and spiritual authority. This is not aggression, this is responsibility. And this moment reshaped the Sikh identity forever. A saint and a soldier. It's with the prayer and the sword, compassion and courage. And world reacted. Because whenever identity grows, pressure grows with it. And I think the second inflection point is Vaisakhi of 1699, when power became more public. Vaisakhi is a day we all celebrate every year, but we often forget what it really represented. Guru Gobind Singh Ji didn't just create warriors, he redistributed power. He erased caste, he erased hierarchy, he erased birth privilege, and he created equality through identity and made discipline the foundation, not lineage. He turned invisibility into visibility, but visibility comes with risk. A clear identity creates a clear target. The Khalsa unified Sikhs, but also made them unmistakably recognizable in a world that punished difference. Unity, but also danger. The third inflection point is that of Ranjit Singh and the Sikh Empire. For the first time in centuries, Sikhs rise again under Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and the community builds a functioning multicultural empire. Trade flourishes, institutions grow, stability returns. It was the first time Sikhs weren't fighting for survival. But this stability didn't last. Empires don't end gently. They collapse abruptly, and they take identity down with them. Now, from 1849 to 1947 to 1984, the collapse and the aftershock. Now, the next part isn't easy, but without it, nothing today makes sense. The fall of the empire, colonization, famine, partition ripping Punjab in half, families uprooted, a lot of land lost, languages disrupted, and the pain of 1984 that still lives in silence. And beyond that, migration scattering Sikhs across continents, identity criminalized, leadership decapitated, institutions shaken, a lot of trust broken. And this isn't ancient history. This is your grandparents, your parents, and in some cases, even you. Power collapsed too fast. And when power collapses too fast, identity fractures too deeply. Those fractures don't disappear, they echo way after the things have happened. There's a lot of behaviors that people misread. And this is where the stereotypes come from. Why are Sikhs angry? Why are they divided? Why are we so defensive? Why are we so nostalgic? Why are we silent on a lot of topics? Why are we too loud on some of the topics? But here's the truth. Anger is a trauma response. Silence is a trauma response. Defensiveness is a trauma response. So is division. So is nostalgia. So is hypervigilance. Identity policing is a trauma response too. And these aren't flaws. These are survival instincts. But survival instincts don't fit neatly inside modern bureaucratic systems that expect calmness, assimilation, and to some extent even forgetfulness. And this pattern that I just spoke about, it's not unique to Sikhs. There are a lot of global parallels. Sometimes you need a mirror to understand your own reflection. Look at the Maori people, a warrior people that were colonized and suppressed, and they are now rebuilding identity through language, through law, and even cultural pride. The Jewish community, a history of power and persecution, followed by diaspora, trauma, and reinvention. Look at the Irish. They have centuries of colonization and cultural erasure, which led to a lot of fragmentation, humor, rebellion, and revival. All these communities have different histories, but same emotional map. Warrior communities become misunderstood communities when the power structure collapses. Having a warrior mentality or a warrior memory in a civilian world. This is the tension modern Sikhs live with. A warrior memory inside a world that demands paperwork. A history of direct action inside systems designed for bureaucracy. A tradition that was forged in battle, now trying to navigate immigration offices. A culture shaped by unity, scattered across countries, languages, and time zones. A community built on courage, living in environments where courage is less visible and more internal. This isn't confusion, this is a transition cycle. And this brings us to the core question. How does a warrior community fight when the battlefield is invisible? And I would like to call it out. It's not flaws, it's not failure. Let's try to decode these stereotypes. Sikhs aren't angry. We're carrying unprocessed injustice. We're not victims. We're remembering what the world forgot. We're not divided, we're scattered. And we are not broken, we're not weak. We just redirected our warrior instinct into survival and even immigration. We are not stuck in the past. The past is probably the only stable reference point after almost 2 centuries of upheaval. These aren't flaws, these are responses. But understanding the past is not enough, because the world we live in today requires a completely different kind of strength. For most of Sikh history, the battlefield was physical, courage was visible, and justice was direct. And power was territorial. But today, the battlefield has completely shifted. Real power now lives in boardrooms, parliaments, universities, law courts, media houses, research labs, public service, military leadership, technology, policy. These are the places where narratives are shaped, where rights are written, economies are built, and even justice is delivered. You don't fight these battles with swords. You fight them with education. You fight them with strategy, emotional resilience. You fight them with institutions, competence, representation, and more importantly, presence. The spirit of the Khalsa is not outdated. It is waiting for a new expression. The warriors that are needed today aren't the only ones who can fight, but ones who can think, who can lead, negotiate, build, innovate, and most importantly, heal. The future of Sikh power will be shaped by the way we raise our children, the institutions we build, the spaces we occupy, and the confidence we carry into every room we walk into. Vaisakhi wasn't just the birth of the Khalsa. It was the moment where Sikhs reshaped their identity to survive a changing world. And maybe today we're standing at another one of those moments. not to shift away from our past, but to shift towards a future where courage looks different. Less about physical battle and more about navigating systems. Less about dying with honor and more about living with direction. Less about fighting old enemies and more about confronting new ones. And those enemies are confusion, fragmentation, disorientation, and even silence. I think that we are not lost, and I think we are not even late. I think we are recalibrating, as every warrior community must when the battlefield changes. Again, the real question isn't what happened to us, it's what do we want to become next, or who do we want to become next? And Vaisakhi might just be the perfect moment to decide. Thank you. See you in the next one.